All right. I think we're ready to get started. Thank you all for coming. This is going to be a great webinar. Please let me know if I'm talking too fast, and I'll try my best to slow down. But this is a subject I'm very passionate about, because international trade, it moves the world. I mean, goods from all over the world. Most of the products in people's houses are from different places in the world, different countries. And international trade is what not only moves goods to individuals, but it also creates jobs. This is what builds countries. This can take a nation from being a developing nation to a developed nation. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We have people from the Bahamas. Good to see you all. We have people from all over the Caribbean, as well as U.K. and some people from Africa as well. I see Kevin, I see you from Trinidad and Tobago. You have IUT in the house, Renee. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for coming. We have people from all over. I see some people from the Bahamas. You have individuals from different nations. And as I mentioned, we are talking about the Caribbean Basin Initiative. It's a fantastic trade initiative, one that'll be transformative for everyone. And we're going to talk about that, and it's primarily talking about how to export your products to the U.S. And this piece of legislation is one that I want you all to be really familiar with, and we're going to talk about that today. So I guess before we begin, talk about who I am. My name is Jeremy Johnson. I am a U.S. practicing lawyer, focusing primarily on international trade law, as well as both federal and international government contracts, procurement contracts. And I've consulted with entrepreneurs across multiple continents. I've spoken in Europe, spoken in Africa, spoken in the US, spoken in many places around the world, and dealt with entrepreneurs all over the world. And so I have a variety of experience. I'm also the founder of Global Law Media, which is what you all are. It's my media company focused on educating the world on the law and keep offering legal education. And one of it is this international trade agreement that we have between the US and many of the Caribbean nations. So we're going to talk about some really good things. First, we're going to talk about the Caribbean Basin Initiative. And it's a piece of legislation that is very important that I want you all to understand, because it directly impacts you all. We have people from all over, the British Virgin Islands. We have people from the Bahamas on this call. We have people from Grenada, Guyana, from IET, Jamaica, everyone, people from all over the Caribbean have signed up for this webinar. So we're going to talk about this initiative. We're going to talk about some of the top products that you can export to the US. It's very important. And we're going to talk about how to market your products in the US. Because it's one thing to understand the Caribbean Basin Initiative, and one thing to understand what type of products you have, but if you don't necessarily know how to market your products, how do you find buyers in the US? How do you find the distributors in the US? If you don't know how to do that, then it's all for nothing. So we're going to explain that in this webinar. Then we're also going to talk about the contractual and legal implications, because you're dealing with international trade. There are contracts involved. This Caribbean Basin Initiative is a piece of legislation. It's a law that's in place. So we're going to make sure you understand all of the contractual and legal implications. As well as we're going to talk about some of the funding opportunities that exist. Money is what moves this world, and we're going to talk about different ways that you can begin to find money and minimize your risk and make certain that you get paid. But before we get into the Caribbean Basin Initiative, let's talk about just the size of America. The US is the largest economy in the world. You look at the world economy. This is the world economy. The US is the largest economy. China is rapidly growing, but the US is still the dominant economy in the world. And this trade law, Caribbean Basin Initiative, allows you to export your products duty-free to the US. We're going to talk about what that means later on, but this is the size of America. This is the opportunity that presents itself for you all. If you look at, this is Europe, there's Germany, France, UK. These are some of the African nations, the large African economies: South Africa, Egypt, Nigeria, Australia. These are some of the larger South American nations. These are some of the larger Asian nations. And this is the rest of the world. The rest of the world is right here. So by being on this webinar, You've shown interest that you want to export to the largest economy in the world. And this is the opportunity that presents itself. And also from a logistics standpoint, it's relatively easy to get your goods to the United States, because if you look at this map, almost 2 out of every 3 people live within 100 miles of the border of the United States. Now, you can look at some of the largest cities are cities that are in the US, like Miami, Philadelphia, New York. These cities are right near the border of the United States. So getting your goods to these cities where almost 66% of the people live is relatively easy. You got New Orleans, Houston, Los Angeles, San Diego, Chicago, Detroit. You know, these are not everyone lives in a border, but the majority of Americans live relatively in this zone. You still have Atlanta, you have places like Dallas, you have places like Las Vegas that are not within that zone, but it's still relatively easy to get your goods to these individuals. And let's talk about the current state of the U.S. economy, because every state is not considered equal from an economic standpoint. For example, you have Texas, it's a $1 trillion economy. So when you're thinking about exporting your goods or finding buyers, you can choose some of the largest states, like New York is a $1 trillion economy. California, $1 trillion economy. But even some of the smaller states like South Dakota, Nebraska, they're still relatively large economies, like $100 billion economy in this state. 129 billion in this state. So the American economy is enormous. It's enormous. Like these is absolutely enormous. And let's talk about the growth of the American economy, because you want to be exporting your products to America. Let's talk about the future trends. Will the American economy be growing? Is there room for your products? And there is. If you look at what happened last year in 2020, during the global pandemic, you saw there was a drop in the goods. So there was a drop in items that were being exported to the United States. The economy failed, which has happened to many places in the world due to the global pandemic. But in 2021 and going forward, the economy is going to be growing. It's going to be in the surplus. So this is an opportunity for you all to really get involved. So let's talk about the Caribbean Basin Initiative. We talked about the economy of the U.S. Let's talk about the Caribbean Basin Initiative. And most of these countries are represented on this webinar. We have IET, we have Jamaica, the Bahamas, Guyana, Suriname, Barbados. I mean, there's many of them. Belize. All of these countries qualify for the Caribbean Basin Initiative. We have Trinidad and Tobago, and many other countries such as this. So we're going to be focusing on primarily these countries that generally surround the Caribbean Sea. This area is the Caribbean Sea, and countries that generally touch the Caribbean Sea or close to the Caribbean Sea are what people generally call the Caribbean. So these are the countries we're going to be focusing on. So let's talk about the Caribbean Basin Initiative. Now, Caribbean Basin Initiative is unlike most other trade agreements. Most trade agreements, when you're dealing with things such as the African Growth Opportunity Act, which is a similar preferential trade agreement as the Caribbean Basin Initiative, is just one piece of legislation. But the African Growth Opportunity Act is just one law for all of Africa. Or you're dealing with the free trade agreements, you're dealing with the U.S., Canada, Mexico Act. That free trade agreement is one piece of legislation. But with the Caribbean Basin Initiative, it's a collection of trade agreements. And together, they are called the Caribbean Basin Initiative. That's very important to understand. It's not one law that you have to focus on. There's a collection of laws that together combine to create the Caribbean Basin Initiative. I hope I explained that well enough. So let's go to the timeline of the development, because it's like I said, all of these together create the Caribbean Basin Initiative. So it's important to understand that America has always wanted to maintain a strong relationship with Caribbean countries. They always had a vested interest in maintaining our strong relationship. Why? Because the proximity of many of the nations to the US, as well as there's a large West Indian population, the large West Indian Caribbean diaspora that's living in the United States. Many of you all may have relatives that live in the United States. So the United States has always wanted to maintain a close relationship with the Caribbean nations. For example, the first one that started is in 1983. with the Caribbean Basin Economic Recovery Act. I'm going to explain all of these, but right now I just want you to see the timeline of it. And then in 1990, they created the Caribbean Basin Economic Recovery Expansion Act. And these are just laws or regulations that allow different products to access the market, the U.S. market, duty free. And then in 2000, they had the Caribbean Basin Trade Partnership Act. And that was expanded in 2002. And then they started focusing on some laws directly for Haiti. They had the Haitian Hemispheric Opportunity through Partnership Encouragement Act. And then in 2010, they had the Haiti Economic Lift Program. And then, which is very important, last year in 2020, they extended this Caribbean Basin Trade Partnership. They extended it to 2030. So the relationship has been ongoing even before 1983. The United States always tried to have a good relationship with many Caribbean nations. And this one has been extended to 2030. So the idea is that you can export your products to America duty free. So we'll be talking about all of these different Caribbean trade agreements: the Caribbean Basin Economic Recovery Expansion, the Caribbean Basin Trade Partnership Act, the Sugar Import Program, which is not often talked about, but we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the programs for Haiti. They're also going to talk about the General System of Preferences. All of these are very, very important trade acts and trade laws. So let's talk about the Caribbean Basin Economic Recovery Expansion Act. What it primarily is a preferential trade agreement, and it allows thousands of products to be imported into the United States duty-free. Now, what does duty-free mean? Duty-free primarily means normally when you're exporting products to a different country, you have to pay a duty tax. And that duty tax can range from whatever product it may be. It can range from 2% up to potentially 20%. It just really just depends. But with this, it doesn't give a trade agreement. It doesn't give a duty import tax. So let's say, for example, you have $1 million worth of products that you're going to export to the United States, and there's a 10% duty tariff rate. That's roughly $100,000 that you have to pay just to import your products to the United States. But since products from the Caribbean nations are duty free, that 10% duty tax doesn't have to be paid. That's $100,000 that you can keep in your pocket, or you can pass on to the consumer, and your products can be cheaper in America compared to other countries that are exporting the same exact thing. So if countries are importing or exporting the same things as you are, your products can potentially be cheaper and be more competitive in the United States, which is the largest economy in the world, by making certain that you follow the rules of the Caribbean Basin Initiative. This is very, very important. This is very important. I cannot stress that enough. This is very important. But there are some exclusions, and we're going to address some of these exclusions later on. There's thousands of products that can be imported to the United States. So there's thousands of products, literally thousands. But under this trade agreement, it excludes textile products. And we're going to discuss these later, because later trade agreements that were created later on address many of these. It prevents watches and watch parts, sugar, and things such as that. So to address that, they passed the Caribbean Basin Trade Partnership Act, and that allows textile items, footwear. So this one banned textile, but this one allows textile. So this is important to understand the intricacies of the Caribbean Basin Initiative, because it's not like most other trade agreements. The Caribbean Basin Initiative is a collection of trade agreements that together create what they call the Caribbean Basin Initiative. It allows leather goods. It allows tuna. Like this one banned tuna, but now tuna is allowed. But it's only for 8 Caribbean nations. So this one is for 17 Caribbean nations. This is for the vast majority of Caribbean nations, but this only allows for eight Caribbean nations. So it's very important to understand the goods you're trying to export to the United States, and does a good from your country qualify for that. And as I mentioned, the Sugar Import Program, it allows 7 Caribbean countries to import sugar to the U.S. at a low tariff rate. Now, this isn't a duty-free one, but it's a low tariff rate. And it's on a first come, first served basis. So if you're able to export, if you're dealing with sugar, I know the Caribbeans, they have a lot of sugar. They're known for the sugar cane. They're known for the sugar, and you can import that to the United States at a low tariff rate on a first come, first served basis. Excuse me. And then with that in place, once that quota is met, it'll go up to the normal tariff rate. So this is very important to understand. And we're going to talk about how to find buyers and how to market your products in the United States. But first, I want to make sure we understand the Caribbean Basin Initiative. This is vital information. And then we have the programs for Haiti. America has a really strong interest in ensuring that Haiti has some economic development, because it allows, through the Haitian Hemisphere opportunity through partnership encouragement, it allows duty-free access for garments. Because at first, because you see right here, they didn't allow textile, they didn't allow garments and things like that. They allowed things for Haiti, because Haiti right now, in many ways, it is definitely the hub of apparel, certainly for the Americas. And if things go right, and if there's more development, it can definitely be the apparel hub, one of the clothing hubs of the world, because through this Caribbean Basin Initiative, it allows them to also partner and do direct shipment from the Dominican Republic. For example, right now, the Hanes company, Hanes, the undergarment company, the big company Hanes, most of us are familiar with them. They do exactly this. They make some of the products in Dominican Republic, and then they complete it in Haiti, and then they export it to America duty free. And these are the things that you all can do. It's also important to know that when you combine the Caribbean Basin Initiative with the general system of preferences, that's also allowed duty-free treatment for over 119 developing nations, including basically every Caribbean nation. So when you combine the Caribbean Basin Initiative, which is duty-free access to America, with the general system of preferences, which is also duty-free access to America, I mean, we're literally talking about thousands of products that can be exported to the US duty-free, making your products cheaper than products from other countries. So this is important, that we want you all to take advantage of this and be able to put this information into action and be able to explore it and be able to pass it on to other individuals. So let's talk about just some of that was a lot of information, but let's just summarize the benefits of the Caribbean Basin Initiative. One, as I mentioned, is duty-free access to the US for thousands of products, except for the sugar import program. That's a low tariff rate, but everything else is duty-free. But it's important to understand that 35% of the value of the products must originate from that Caribbean nation. Say, for example, you're exporting something from Jamaica to the US, and it's under the Caribbean Basin Initiative. Only 35% of that value of that product has to have been created or originated in Jamaica. That's a very low margin compared to, as I mentioned earlier, the US-Mexico-Canada Act. There's some things that have to have 75% origin. In order to get free access, duty-free access to America under this agreement, you have to have, some product like cars had to have 75% value must have been created within either US, Mexico, or Canada. They lowering it for 35% for the Caribbean nations, Guyana, Trinidad, Tobago. I mean, whatever product it is, you can import things from other countries, and there's only 35% of the value of their product has to originate from the Caribbean nation. So it's a very low threshold. And as I mentioned, you can export your products to the US, which is the largest economy in the world. And the thing about America is that, as many of you know, English is the primary language spoken in America. So you really don't have to worry about translating your products into different languages. For example, you export to the EU, you'll have to worry about German, you have to worry about French, you have to worry about English, many other languages. Africa, different languages. Asia, there's many different languages, but the world's largest economy, there's only one language you have to worry about, and that's English. So that's a benefit of this Caribbean Basin Initiative. So let's talk about just the basic elements. As I mentioned earlier, when you're exporting your product, the country of export must be from the Caribbean Basin Initiative. You have to be eligible from that particular country. And the product must be Caribbean Basin Initiative eligible. Then it must be imported directly into the US from your country. You can't send it to China and then from China they import it to the US. It has to come directly from your country. It can't come from Cuba. You can't send it to Cuba and then from Cuba to the United States. It has to come directly from your Caribbean nation. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the rules of origin must be met. And these are all the Caribbean nations that qualify under the Caribbean Basin Economic Recovery Expansion. And pretty much everyone, all 27 countries are represented on this in this webinar. And we have Barbados, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, the Cayman Islands, Trinidad and Tobago, Haiti, Panama, Jamaica. There's many of these countries, St. Kitts and Nevis, many countries. And then with the CBTPA, only 8 countries qualify: Barbados, Belize, Curacao, Guyana, Haiti, Jamaica, St. Lucia, Trinidad, Tobago. And as I mentioned, this allows textile footwear, leather, travel goods, and watches to have duty-free access. And there's thousands of products now, literally thousands. But if you want to focus on these, you have to be a part of these 8 countries. And also for the sugar export program, if you want to export sugar to the United States, it's typically one of these 7 countries. So if you are from Haiti and Jamaica, you're pretty much in Haiti, Jamaica, Belize, and Barbados, you pretty much qualify for everything. And Trinidad, Tobago, you qualify for all of these, you know? So you're very fortunate to be from these countries. And it allows importation of sugar to the US at a low tariff rate. And then once that quota is met, once that level is met, then it goes to a normal tariff rate. This is a sample commercial invoice. So we talked about the Caribbean Basin Initiative. That was a thorough run through of what the Caribbean Basin Initiative is. So let's talk about a sample commercial invoice. This is a sample commercial invoice. You don't have to write anything down. I didn't mention that earlier, but you don't have to write anything down. I will email these slides to you. And I'll also send you the recording of this video. So you don't have to write anything down. I promise I will do that for you. But this is a sample commercial invoice. This is something that you all should be familiar with. When you're doing business internationally, you'll be coming in contact with sales contracts and commercial invoices. I'm gonna talk about the sales contract later, but this is a sample commercial invoice. And it talks about who the seller is, what they describe the products that are being sold, what currency are you all using, the terms of the payment, 30 days, 90 days, is it immediate, the invoice number. I mean, things such as that. I mean, you get a place for you to sign, things such as that. This is a sample commercial invoice, and I'll send this out to you all. Also, certificate of origin. This is very important because this is for Caribbean countries. If you're not from a Caribbean country, you do not qualify under the Caribbean Basin Initiative. So when you're exporting your products, you have to fill out this form, a certificate of origin, basically saying who the exporter, the producer, describing your goods. This is what you'll send when you ship your goods, and it goes to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, which is a part of the Department of Homeland Security. Because if you don't fill this out, they may fine you, they may seize your goods, it may make you forfeit your goods. Now, if this happens, you can contact me and I can help you out. This is what I do. One of the things I do as an international trade lawyer, I can help people with their goods that have been confiscated by the Customs and Border Protection. So this is another form you have to fill out. So now let's talk about some of the products now. If you understand the Caribbean Basin Initiative, you understand there are thousands of products. I mean, there's literally thousands of products. Most of the products you can think of, you can export to the U.S. But let's focus on, let's choose 3 products we want to export. I mean, it can be anything, I mean, any products. So come up with 3. This is a worksheet I have, and I'll send this out to you all. Also choose potentially 3 industries that you want to focus on. You want to focus on food. You want to focus on cosmetics. I mean, you want to focus on, I mean, it goes on and on and on, you know. Choose 3 industries you want to focus on. And also some metrics I want you all to understand. Like, do you have an export plan? It's very important. We're going to talk about an export plan later on. But do you have an export plan? So that's I know people often talk about business plans, but do you have an export plan? Have you drafted a sales contract or commercial invoice? Do you have that? These are some things to get the wheels turning. These are some things that can help you make certain that you are prepared to export to the United States. Because America in many ways is a very sophisticated economy. It's a very sophisticated economy. So you have to make sure that you are prepared for that. And also, does your product require an export license? Oftentimes we talk about America, but does a product coming from your country require an export license? For example, you are from Guyana. If you want to export a product to the United States, your country, which is how every country works, certain products require export license. They may say you may have to get a license from your home country to export to another foreign country. Every country does that. So before you export your products, does your product require an export license? That's something to look into and fully understand. So let's talk about some top products to export under the Caribbean Basin Initiative. These are just some ideas for products. There are thousands of products now, but these are just some ideas. One is clothing and apparel, as we mentioned. Certain countries can qualify for that. But when you're dealing with clothing and apparel, it's important to understand that there's a third country fabric rule. The yarn, the cotton, the fabric has to come from a U.S. country. So you have to get the fabric from the U.S., put it together in your home country, then export it back to America. That's what Hanes does. That's one of the many examples. The Hanes, they import the cotton and the fabric from the U.S. build it in a factory they do a little bit in Dominican Republic, but they do a lot of it in Haiti, and then they export it back to the United States duty-free. Also food, superfoods. Irish sea moss is on the rise in the US. It is a booming industry. Irish sea moss is big in the United States. Also soursop. These are things that can only grow in the Caribbean. You have things like pineapple, hibiscus. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Coffee. We have Blue Mountain coffee from Jamaica. There's other countries that make coffee as well. And your things can be exported to the US. The Blue Mountain coffee in the United States is very expensive. It's considered one of the best coffees in the world. So there's a premium attached to Jamaican blue coffee. And there's coffee, as I mentioned, coffee from other countries. There's also cocoa, mangoes, and there's also gluten-free things such as cassava. There's many things that grow in the Caribbean countries that do not grow in America. You can export those things to America. But it's important to do market research. I have a link for market research, but there are major players. When you're dealing with fruit, there are big, large companies that are already in fruit in the United States. So do your market research before you start exporting things. Do your market research to make certain that you don't have enormous, large companies that you have to compete with. But you can do your research and figure out, okay, there are major players maybe in pineapples with certain companies like Dole, but there's not really many in soursop or Irish moss or whatever it may be. Also, fish and seafood, fish, lobster, shrimp, crab, tuna. These things are in abundance in the Caribbean waters, and these things can be exported to the United States. Also, this is very important. It's one thing to just export things in their raw form. Let's focus on adding value to our products. Instead of doing Irish sea moss and just exporting the Irish sea moss as it exists, let's maybe turn into Irish sea moss gel products. Let's convert it to actually like a cosmetic product, maybe like a product you can ingest or something like that. You can take down. Or instead of doing coconut, can we export coconut oil or mango butter? Or instead of doing the coffee beans, let's see, can we roast it and then export it from the US in a roasted final form? Can we ground the coffee? Can we do it so you can put it in a French press? Instead of just shipping the coffee bean, the coffee fruit, let's roast it. Let's add value to our product, because if you add value to it, you can charge and make more money off of it. Versus if you export it in its raw form, you can make pretty good money, but you can make more money if you export it. Instead of doing just the cocoa fruit, you can do cocoa fertilizer or type of cosmetic. And as I mentioned, with the combination of the Caribbean Basin Initiative and the general system of preferences, and there are thousands of products you can think of that will get duty-free access to America and allow you to make money in the largest economy in the world. This is very, very important. This is the opportunity. And this website right here, like I said, you don't have to write it down. I'll send it out to you. This is a really good place to do market research. It covers imports from over 200 countries to the US. It shows you the trends. So if you don't have any idea what product you want to export to the United States, you can see certain products that are being exported to the United States from your particular country. And you can either do that, or you can add value and convert it into a final product and export it to the United States. So this is a really good website to go to be able to do market research. So it's important to understand where to find buyers. We talked about the Caribbean Basin Initiative thoroughly. We've talked about many things. We talked about different products, top products to export to the US. Then where do you go to find buyers? If you have all the information, but you can't find a buyer, you still haven't really made any money. You can't create jobs with other people in your country. So where do you go to find buyers? We're gonna talk about that right now. The first, a really good place is trade shows. There are many trade shows in America. If you're dealing with clothing and apparel, the Magic Trade Show it's one of the best trade shows to go to in the world. I mean, some of the biggest brands, clothing brands, are at the Magic Trade Show. It's in Las Vegas typically every year, so you can go there. Also, if you're dealing with a food product, the Fancy Food Show, it's really the de facto food trade show that you all can meet. Dreams are made at these trade shows. Like Ben and Jerry, they launched their brand at the Fancy Food Show. Individuals and there's many other brands that I think Vitamin Water launched their brand at the Fancy Food Show. So like these are places to go. Also, the International Beauty Show in the US. I mean, these places you can go and connect with buyers, you can connect with distributors, you can connect with food brokers. You can find people that will be at these trade shows. They can look at your product and then they'll buy it and they'll make orders for it. This is where dreams can be made. Dreams can come true at these places, and it historically has, and it has in the past. Why can't your products be one of those products? And one way to do this, you can get a B1 visa from the US. You can go to your local US embassy or your local US consulate and you do a B1 visa and tell them that you want to go to the trade show. You have to show them, you have to come prepared now. You have to show them that you have a real company. You have to show them that that you have a real product you want to export. You can't just say I want a B1 visa. You have to go through some work and be legitimate. Like I have booked my flights and things such as that, you know. So as I mentioned, you can connect with buyers, distributors, and food brokers. You know, you can connect with these individuals, and before you go, you can see who will be there. So you can be more prepared and take advantage of it more, but you'll know who will be there. And when you're talking to these buyers and distributors and food brokers, they're going to want to know two things. They're going to want to know, why should they add your product, and why should they source it from your company? You have to answer those questions. Why should I add your product? And then I'm adding your product, but why should I buy it from your company versus another company? Can you answer those questions? Now, there's many things you can say. There are many things you can do. We're going to talk about some of that later on, but many things you can say. You can say my product is low in fat, or my product is all natural. My product is organic. There's many things you can talk about. Like you can say this food item has less than 5% of the daily value of the recommended food intake. So these are actually beneficial for you, because America is a fairly health conscious country. So those are some of the things you can talk about, and you say many more. You know, so you say this is helping. This is a cooperative in my country, and this is helping hundreds of women find employment. Also, lawyers and accountants. You can talk to lawyers and accountants. Lawyers and accountants, they know buyers, they know distributors. They can help you, let you know whether your product will be able to be successful in the US. And also the internet stores. This is very important. Amazon is the online retailer in America. It is by far the largest online retailer in the US. And there's also Etsy as well. But Amazon even became more popular during the pandemic because individuals had to be in their homes. They were just ordering, instead of going to the grocery store, they were ordering from Amazon. And what's important to know about Amazon, they have a fulfillment by Amazon, the FBA. This is very, very important. And the idea is that you can send your products to Amazon. You can be in your home country. You can be in Haiti. You can be in Jamaica. You can ship your product to Amazon, their headquarters, their storage facilities. And then Amazon would, and you go on Amazon.com and create your online store. And when someone buys from your store, instead of you shipping it from your country and it taking 10, 15, 20 days, or however long it's going to take to get to your customer, Amazon will ship it on your behalf. They will distribute it from their facilities, and they'll guarantee a 2-day shipping. This is the advantage that Amazon has over many other online retailers. They guarantee a 2-day shipping because they have a fulfillment by Amazon, and people have a Prime badge. Individual Amazon, this is very important. Amazon has a subscription service where individuals, they'll pay like $100 and something every single year for guaranteed 2-day delivery and free shipping on millions of products. And if you go through Amazon's fulfillment program, your product will get a Prime badge, and Amazon will guarantee your product will reach your customer in 2 days and for free shipping. So not only are your products benefiting because you are getting duty-free access, it may be cheaper than other places, but also if you're working with Amazon, they're guaranteed 2-day shipping and free shipping for your customers. This is what Amazon does on their own. They do this themselves. So you can be in your home country, you can be in Trinidad and Tobago, you can be in Guyana, you can be in Belize, and you ship your product, have it in a finished product now, have it in a finished form, and you ship it to Amazon facilities, and Amazon will do it on your behalf. This is very important to understand. This is how jobs are created. This is how companies become enormous companies, million-dollar companies. Now, it would take time, but with enough patience and persistence and effort, this can happen for you. This is very important to understand. So this is how these are at least, I mean, these are multiple ways to find buyers. The more trade shows, lawyers and accountants, the internet, Etsy.com, these are multiple ways to find buyers for your companies. And also digital marketing. Digital marketing is very, very important. Because when you meet these buyers and distributors and food brokers, or an individual buy from your stores, you can also market to these individuals as well. So let's talk about digital marketing, because that's very important. Digital marketing, as I mentioned, it is a type of knowledge that you must understand in the 21st century. For example, let's talk about Facebook, for example. Instead of going to facebook.com, you'll go to business.facebook.com. It's very important to understand, not facebook.com, business.facebook.com, because we are talking about business right now. We're talking about how to export your products into the United States. And once you go to business.facebook.com, you can create an ad account. Often you'll see ads on social media. This is how individuals do this. And you'll have, say, for example, you'll have a product. You want to export a cosmetic product you have, or you want to have a food product you want to export. You'll go to business.facebook.com and you'll create your ad, and you'll export, and you'll run that ad on Facebook. And if individuals that like your product, they'll click on it and they'll go to your website, your landing page. Let's see, can we get a website? In the 21st century, we need to be having somewhat of a website. And for example, if you have a cosmetic product, and it may be, let's say, for example, you're dealing with mangoes or something. When you create your ad, you can put the keywords in it. Say, I want my ad to be shown with people that are interested in mangoes. That's very important. That's different than most other places. And reason I say digital marketing is the most powerful form of marketing is primarily because if you have a billboard on the street, if people aren't on that street, they won't see a billboard. Or you have an ad on a radio, if people aren't really watching that radio station or that TV channel, they're not really seeing your ad. But with digital marketing, you can type in a keyword for people that are interested in your products. If it's cosmetic, you type people that are interested in cosmetic, and your ad will be shown to people that are strictly interested in cosmetic. And in today's day and age, most people have a Facebook account. I'm pretty sure most people on here have a Facebook account. So you'll be able to get your products to potentially billions of people. And so they'll click on your ad, they'll go to your website, and then say, for example, you're saying you have an ad, say, I have a new cosmetic product, you can order now, or have another ad that says request a sample. Because if you're dealing with big time retailers or big time stores, you may send them and say request a free sample. And they'll click on it, and they'll go to your website, your landing page, and you'll collect the information, the names, the phone numbers, the business they're working for, many things like that. And they can either order from you, you have an order made, or they can request a sample. You can send them a sample. And now you have the information. So you can either they made an order from you and you're happy, or they requested your sample and you're happy because now you're developing business. This is what they call business development. I'm all for business administration and learning how to run businesses. That's very important. But we have to talk about entrepreneurship, business development. We have to talk about that. This is how you develop business. And then they can make an order from you. Or if they go to your website, you can also, and they don't buy anything, you can retarget them. Facebook has a way of knowing who came to your website. Understand what a pixel is. A pixel, Pixel. You put a pixel on your website, Facebook will know these people came to your website and did not buy. So you can run ads for people that came to your website and did not buy. This is high level business strategy right here. This is very high level business strategy. You have to understand digital marketing and how to make money on the internet in today's day and age. And then you can retarget them. Or if they ordered from you and you got the information, you can add them to your monthly newsletter. Or if a person requested a sample from you and they bought a product from you, a big time, let's say, for example, Walmart, they're one of the big stores in the US. Walmart ordered from you. And then you have a new product. You already had the contact information already. You can send the emails to these individuals and say, hey, I have a new product that supplements what I bought. How about requesting this information? This is very important information. It's one thing to understand all about the Caribbean Basin Initiative, but I wouldn't be doing you all justice if I didn't really focus on the business development aspects. How do you find buyers? Many things such as that. This is very important, crucial information really to understand. And the key is, before you can even send your product, are you export ready? You have to be export ready. Do you have an export plan? We're going to talk about an export plan fairly soon. Do you have a real company? You're dealing with buyers. If you're trying to put your products in stores in America, they're going to want to deal with real companies. They don't want to deal with people. They want to deal with real companies because people can just run and move away, but they want to deal with real people. Also, is your product trademarked in the U.S.? If you're trying to send your products to the U.S., is your products trademarked in the U.S.? Because the worst thing, what you don't want to happen is someone sees your product, someone visits your country, and they see your product, they see your name, and then all of a sudden they say, I'm gonna sell the same thing in America. And they just use your name and they trademark your logo, trademark everything in America, and there's really nothing you can do because they trademarked it first. So you make sure that your product is a real company, first of all, in your local company, in your local country. Make sure it's a real country in your local country, but it also makes sure it's trademarked in your local country as well as in the US. This is how you make sure certain that you're export ready. These are some of the things. Now, this may not happen, but these are the things that you want to do beforehand to ensure that you don't get ripped off or don't get taken advantage of. And also your packaging. Is our packaging beautiful? I think we can do that. I've been to many Caribbean nations and I've seen beautiful packaging. And so I'm confident we can do that. You have to list the calories, the allergens on it. If it has shellfish, because a lot of people in America are allergic to shellfish, peanuts, and soybeans. So you have to list if your products are they made in a facility where there's peanuts there, or does it have peanuts or anything such as that in your products. And now in the 21st century, we can make it beautiful design, but also can we make it multifunctional? And what do I mean by multifunctional? For example, in America, it's not uncommon for a product you can take from the store and then put it in the microwave. Like popcorn, you can put it in the microwave. It's multifunctional. It's nice packaging, but you also can put it in the microwave. Also for like breakfast food or dinner items, you can put these in a microwave, So there's multifunctional. These are the things you can do. And also some of the things with your packaging, because there's warnings you can do. There's warnings and things that help people know what they're going to be digesting or using, but also some health claims that you can use to make yourself stand out. For example, you can be organic. You can get certified organic from a third party certifying agency. Talk about what I mentioned earlier, less than 5% daily or your daily value in fat. That's a good thing. Or you can say this is 60% of your daily value in your fiber. That's a good thing as well. You can make a claim such as vitamin A or helps maintain vision, or you can say vitamin C is good for your immune system. Many things such as that. These are some things you can do in your packaging to help your product stand out. And also quality standards. If you're dealing with big time retailers, they're going to want your quality to be the best of the best. So can you make certain that your quality is the best of the best, And also the quality standards are important because if you ship into the United States, export to the United States, you have to, your facility has to be registered with the FDA, the U.S. FDA, the Food and Drug Administration in America. It has to be registered with the United States. And these are things I can help with as well. And you also may potentially have to have an FDA agent. That's very important. It's very important. FDA agent. And also there's quantity standards. If you go to a food trade show or you're marketing online and someone goes to your website and they request $100,000 or $1 million worth of products, of your products, can you fulfill that order? Can you fulfill that order? These are some things you have to go to, because if someone goes and, one second, please. If someone goes there and you can't fulfill that order, then you may miss out on potential way to make money. You may miss out on a way to make money. And so that's important to understand. And also certification, different certifications, do you have an export license from your country? If you may be dealing with food, you may have to get a photosanitary certificate. Maybe you have to get a radiation certificate. Understand all of the things that are required from your business before you do it. That's very important. So, and it's important, the FDA, I briefly mentioned it, but let's talk about the FDA. But the FDA is very important because it's definitely one of the most powerful agencies in the world, due to the fact that the United States is the largest economy in the world. Therefore, it makes the Food and Drug Administration one of the most powerful agencies in the world. I mean, you're dealing with food for human, you export into the U.S. It has to be, it has to be through the U.S. FDA. Dealing with cosmetic products, they deal with 5% of the things they deal with every single year is cosmetics. A third of the things the FDA deals with is through human food, also animal food. These things you can export to the United States, you know, many things such as that. But these are some ideas for products. I mean, there's thousands of products. I mean, there's thousands of products, but these are just some ideas, you know. There's coconut plentiful in the Caribbean nations. There's maybe shea, there may be cocoa, there's mango. You maybe turn these into soaps, conditioners, lotions, oils. These are just ideas, but these packaging is beautiful, you know. These are some really good looking packaging, and I'm confident we can do that. Like, for example, one way they stood out as saying this is all natural. Also dealing with different types of foods. Can your packaging look just as good as this? I think we can do this. I'm confident we can do this. Banana chips. We're not just exporting a banana, we're turning to a banana chip, or many things such as that, you know, cassava chips, coconut chips, dried fruits, and many things such as that. Also frozen vegetables. Many times you go to these are how the stores look in America. And if you go to many places in the US, most of these fish items, these vegetables they have here, they're from different places in Asia. Why can't they come from the Caribbean? They can come from the Caribbean. The Caribbean is closer to the US than many places in Asia. So these are opportunity that you can do, that presents itself for individuals to take advantage of. But as I mentioned, are you export ready? As I said earlier, if you are manufacturing, processing, packaging, or holding food for consumption in the US, it has to be registered with the US FDA. And the idea is that the US, you have to give them permission to inspect your facility. So the US FDA, they will come down to your country. They'll maybe come with your local, the equivalent of the FDA in your country, and they'll go to your facility and inspect your facility. They have the right to do it anytime, as long as you're exporting products to the US. I don't think we can do that. I mean, this isn't necessarily as complex as it may appear. And the reason I'm confident we can do this is because there are currently people in your home country that are already registered with the FDA. For example, in Jamaica, there's 189 facilities that's registered with the FDA. Barbados is 29. Trinidad and Tobago, there's 83 facilities in Trinidad and Tobago that are registered with the US FDA. So these are people you can go to and say, how did you go about doing this? Also, you can say, can we partner together? Can you be part of my my board of directors? Can you be part of my team? We're going to talk about things like that later on. But I mean, this has been done. I mean, in Haiti, there's 57 facilities that are registered with the US FDA as of May 21st, 2021. That was the last available information I had. St. Kitts and Nevis is 4. You know, in Dominica, there's 2 facilities in Dominica. Belize, 26. Barbados, 28 facilities. You know, Dominican Republic is 400 facilities. Costa Rica, there's 500 facilities. St. Lucia, 17. You know, so these people are in your country that are already doing what you want to do. So you just have to figure out who they are and approach them. They can be your mentors. You can partner with them, and many things such as that. I mean, this is opportunity that exists. These are real things that can be done that can benefit you in your country. So let's talk about an export plan. It's very important. This is a worksheet. As I mentioned, I'm going to send this out to you all. You don't have to write anything down. I'll send all this out to you. But does your company legally exist? If we go to your country's business registry, is your company located there? Do you meet the certificate of origin requirements? As I mentioned, you have to meet that in order for it to qualify under the Caribbean Basin Initiative. Is your packaging beautiful? Do you have an export license? Have you protected your brand? You talk about many things such as this, you know. Have you identified a freight forwarder and a custom broker? Have you done a necessary market analysis? I have a website for you that I showed you earlier where you can start doing market research. And many things such as that, you know, like, have you done a production analysis, and are you capable of meeting required quantities? Because in the American companies that like your product, they may not just order 3 or 4 items. They may order by the hundreds, if not thousands. Can you make me 10,000 of your products next week? Will you be able to do that? And can you make it every single week? It's very important. Also, let's talk about a sales contract. This is very important. But they're typically, because we talked about a lot in this webinar already. We talked about the Caribbean Basin Initiative. We talked about certain products that can be good to export to America. We talked about how to find your buyers. We talked about an export plan. We talked about a lot in this webinar already. So let's talk about the sales contract, because that's very important. It's very important, because if you have a sales contract, now you can guarantee that you are protected well. The sales invoice can cancel the place of a sales contract. If you're dealing with sophisticated buyers in the U.S., you want to lean towards a sales contract. And these is what I do. I can help you all with that. So there's typically two types of sales contracts. There's contracts for your one-time transaction, and then there's also for ongoing transaction. Ideally, you want to get to a place where they're ordering from you on a regular basis. They're ordering from you every month or every other week or every week. They're ordering from you on a consistent basis. Now, you're dealing with a one-time transaction. It primarily be a price, quantity, and a time they want the product delivered to them. This is particularly if you have an online store or however you're going to be. I mean, things such as that. If you're dealing with an ongoing transaction, it may be a supplier agreement or a distributor agreement, or you may have some sales agents in the U.S. that may be doing a sales agent agreement, and the price may not necessarily be fixed. And the elements of a contract, at least in America and in many Caribbean nations, I mean, most Caribbean nations like the U.S., they're common law countries. They were former British colonies. And so the legal system is fairly similar in many respects, which is a good thing, you know. But the elements of a contract is offer, acceptance, consideration. I'm offering to buy your product. That person accepts my offer. The person accepts my offer. You, the buyer, you the exporter, will accept my offer. And there'll be consideration. Consideration just means each party gives up something. I'm giving you money and you're giving me the product. There's a meeting of the minds, you know. We mutually agree to these things. So offer, I accept that offer, and we both give up two things, money and the product. Those are the basic elements of a contract. And so these are some sample ideas that you can actually put into a contract. This is for a one-time transaction. You can put, this is an example. Company agree to sell whatever your product is to the buyer. As valuable consideration for this product, buyer shall pay company a fee in the amount equal to whatever dollar it is. This is something that can easily be put into a contract right there. And that has the offer, acceptance, and a consideration. This is for an ongoing relationship. It may not necessarily be price discussed in the ongoing relationship. For example, you can say the price for each product will be the total cost plus the markup of blank percentage for that product. So this is how to determine, this determines the price. The price of each product will be the total cost plus the markup of the percentage of that product. And it's also important to understand when you're dealing with ongoing relationships, you want to put into the contract that you have the ability to renegotiate the price. And this is what this says. Prices are based on suppliers' expected total costs and will be updated each quarter consistent with past practices. So basically what this is saying is that you have the right to revisit the price every 3 months and determine whether you want to increase the price or not. So these are important terms you want to have in your contract. And also other finance terms. And these are the real steps. You know, I want to make certain that individuals, they can leave this webinar, can walk away saying, I learned a tremendous amount of information. I feel more empowered than ever to be able to take my dreams and make it a reality. I'm giving you tremendous amounts of information right here. So you're dealing with financing terms. How are you going to go about getting paid? Because business is about money. That's just what it is. You go in business to make money. Now, there's a certain thing called social entrepreneurship and things such as that, absolutely. But if you want to do good, you can do a nonprofit. But if you're dealing business, you want to focus on, you make certain that the financing terms are done right. So one way we can do it is a letter of credit. This is very reliable. This has been going on for a long time. I mean, businesses that do international trade understand a letter of credit. And basically it'll be, you'll go to your bank, and then the seller will go to their bank, and those banks will work together. So the idea is that if that buyer doesn't pay you, then that buyer's bank will guarantee you'll get paid. That's the power of a letter of credit, and that's accepted. Every bank knows about the letter of credit, and there's typically at least one reputable, respectable bank in pretty much every country in the world. At least one. In the U.S., there's tons of. You can go to any. I mean, most banks in the United States. It's safe to say that all the banks in the United States, they understand what a letter of credit is. And so you send your goods, and if that person doesn't pay you, their bank will pay you directly. That's what a letter of credit is. Also, you can get payment in advance. If you're dealing with online stores, they pay before you ship the goods. You do a debit card or credit card. You can have an online store and they'll have processing fees and things such as that. You can go through PayPal, or you go straight through Amazon or straight through Etsy or through your own personal website. And there are also the net payments. It'd be a net 30 or net 90. And basically what that means that you'll pay me back in 30 days. You'll pay me back in 90 days. Now you want to do that typically when you're dealing with, you have an established relationship with that buyer, or it's like a large buyer and they have a lot of the bargaining power and they can dictate how things should go. Also, risk of transfer. This is very important. If you're shipping something to New York, it can be some of the most popular ones is free on board or cost insurance freight. For example, you may say, I'm gonna ship this good New York FOB New York. And basically what that means is once you ship the product, you're no longer responsible for the product. If you do FOB New York, that means once I ship it, I'm not responsible for whether it gets there or not. Free on board. The buyer is responsible for risk of loss once the items are shipped. Now, the buyer, or you all agree to do a CIF New York or CIF, whatever city it goes to, then you, the seller, is responsible until the goods reach the buyer. So these are very short terms, but they are very powerful from a legal standpoint. And these will be upheld in a U.S. court. So if your buyer doesn't necessarily want to fulfill his obligations under the contract, you can sue them in American court. American court is definitely a certain one that you shouldn't be afraid of entering. And I'm able to help in that way as well. So let's talk about the battle of the form, because oftentimes I mentioned the many forms. This is typically how international trade goes. It may go to your website, or it may be at a trade show and they'll do a request for pricing. They'll request how much will it cost if I order X amount, and then you'll send them a performance invoice. Like we showed you an invoice earlier, and then they'll send a purchase order, and then you'll accept that purchase order, and then you'll send a commercial invoice, a finished commercial invoice or a finished sales contract. You'll send that, they'll be in place. That's typically how it goes. Now the problem that can occur is that these forms all have different language, and everyone just signed these different forms, and they all have different language, they all have different terms and conditions. Which country laws will govern? Are we sending this free on board? Are we like it'll have so many different forms, and there's so many different countries that have been signed. So this is why they call it the battle of the forms. Which terms will govern? And that can get very complex. And it's not a problem as long as things go right. But when things go wrong, and sometimes they do in business, because that's just what business is. In business, problems do arise. You want to know, am I protected myself? So to prevent all of this web of just problems, you can avoid the battle of the forms. For example, if you are the buyer, you can get the seller to sign your purchase order, and they're basically saying that my terms will govern going forward. But many people on here are planning on being exporting to the United States. You'll want to get them to sign your invoice, saying that my terms. It'll be a small little clause, and I can help with that. Basically saying my terms will govern the relationship in this commercial deal or this contract. I mean, it'll be more than that, but that's in essence what it says. And that's how you can avoid the battle of the forms. Also, important things in your sales contract, you want to describe the goods. You want to describe it very well. The ounces, the size, describe the products as best as you can. Also, would that be a pre-shipment inspection or a post-shipment inspection? It's very important. Should a buyer inspect the goods before you ship them? Because they can hire a third-party inspector before you even ship them. Or can the buyer inspect it once the goods are in the U.S. up to 30 days? This is something that you all have to decide on. Also, the governing law. Which laws will govern? Will it be the CISG, or will it be another country? Will it be like China? Like you want to pick which country what laws will govern. Dispute resolution. If something happens, how do we go about it? Do they have to sue in your local court? Do you have to come to America? How you go about doing that? And one way you can do international arbitration. And there's a sample clause you can just put right into your contract. It's sample. In events of any controversy or claim arising out of this agreement, you can put this contract shall be entitled to be settled by arbitration in accordance with the international arbitration rules of the International Century of Dispute Resolution. So this is basically saying that if there's an issue that we have, and we can't come to an agreement, we can't settle it ourselves, we can go to an international center for dispute resolution, get it settled by independent individuals that are separate that can do this for you. Also, the binding ruling. This is very important, because as I mentioned, the Caribbean Basin Initiative is unlike many other trade agreements. The idea is that Caribbean Basin Initiative is a collection of trade agreements that together they create the Caribbean Basin Initiative. And also important to know that, as I mentioned earlier, only 35% of the value of the goods must originate from that particular Caribbean country. That's a very low threshold. So you can have products from other countries, but as long as only 35% of it has to be from your country. So the question is, it's so complex, it can be complex. How do you know whether they will qualify under the Caribbean Basin Initiative? And will your product qualify under it? The only way you can request a binding ruling. Because I mentioned thousands of products that are available once you combine the Caribbean Basin Initiative with the general system of preferences. It's very important. So you can request a binding ruling. That means before I ship my goods to the US, I can ask the US Customs and Border Protection Agency to let me know ahead of time whether my goods will qualify for duty-free. It's very important to understand. And they will write you back and say, yes, your goods qualify. And these are some things that I can help with. I can help with this. I can help with this. And they'll let you know. And once they send that binding ruling, they can't revoke it retroactively. It's very important. And the question is, if you don't request a binding ruling, and the Customs Border Protection disagrees with you and say your product does not qualify under the Caribbean Basin Initiative, they can hit you with different duties and fines and potential penalties. They can go back up to 5 years as well. And it can also turn your relationship with the U.S. buyer. The U.S. buyer was dependent on you to know whether your goods qualify. So if you don't, and they have to pay the fine, then they may just stop ordering from you. There's also different types of binding rulings. As I mentioned, there are 4 types of rulings. As I mentioned, there's a binding ruling where you can ask for information before you ship your goods to the U.S. Sometimes the goods go to the U.S. and then you still can ask for customs to issue you a ruling, internal advice. This is before they arrive at the U.S. port, and then there's a disagreement between the port and the importer. So the port and importer are disagreeing on whether the goods qualify under the CBI. So you can ask for internal advice from customs. And also you can further review a protest. If it had gone to customs and it's been liquidated, it's been taken, it's been put into America, you still can ask for them to rule on it, whether the goods qualify under CBI. And then also if you disagree with customs, you can ask for a ruling reconsideration. And many of these you will be appealing to the U.S., the Customs Border Protection headquarters. You won't be appealing to the actual port. You'll be appealing to the headquarters in the U.S. So we're coming to a close, but we have to talk about funding. You know, if they come and you have order a big, large, ideally we want to grow to a level where we can get hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of orders, potentially millions of dollars worth of orders. And there are a couple of ways you can help fund those orders. One way is through the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation. They do loans, they loan guarantees from $1 million up to $1 billion. So this is what the big, large, different projects. Also, credit insurance. As I mentioned, oftentimes when you want to build a good relationship with your buyer, you also do a net 30 or net 90. You say, pay me back within 90 days. And the concern is that they may never pay you back. But one way you can minimize that risk, because business is all about minimizing your risk. That's one thing that lawyers do best. We help you minimize your risk. The contracts in place. There are also things called credit insurance. You can insure against non-payment. In the U.S., they have the U.S. Export Bank, Export-Import Bank, but your country also may have an Export-Import Bank. They may call it different names. They may call it Exim. They may call it the credit. They may call it a credit insurance agency. They call it different names, but they may have a country Exim Bank that you can go to, and they'll help you to ensure your goods So the idea is that if the buyer doesn't pay you, that if you get a credit insurance, then that Exim Bank will pay you if that buyer doesn't pay you. So that's very important to know. Because if your buyer doesn't pay you, You can go to at some bank, your country, and say, hey, my bank did not pay me. I took out an insurance policy with your bank, and then they will pay you at least 90% or more of the cost of whatever it was. And there's also private company. This is a private company that does the same thing. So your country doesn't necessarily have at some bank, this private company may be able to help you as well. Also, cooperative economics. Business is a team sport. Business is a team sport. One way you can do that is start a business with your partners. Start a business with partners. Instead of going business by yourself, start it with partners, and partners can bring their money together. And now instead of one person bringing a certain amount of money, you have 3 or 4 people coming together and have money. Also, they have susus. They call them different names. Susus. You do a susu for businesses. And the idea is that in many countries, individuals get together and they'll put money in a pot every single week. And every single week, that pot will go to each person. You do the same thing for businesses. Instead of doing it with people, businesses get together and put money in a pot. And then once a month or whenever it is, you get your turn. And that way you can raise money for your business. And also commercial loans. If you get a big order, you go to a trade show and you get a big order from a big retailer in the U.S., particular one that's on the U.S. stock market, you probably won't have problems finding a commercial loan because that bank will know you're good for it. If they can get an invoice from that Walmart or that big Kroger or whatever store it is in the United States, and they can verify this is real, they'll give you a loan for your invoice. They will certainly do that. So these are the 4 ways that you can find money. Because in America, when people start businesses, they get money from their friends and family, and they start a business. That's how they do it in America. Probably how the same way you probably do it in your country. You get your friends and family together, they give you money, and you start your business. And then from there, you can grow. These things are very possible. These things are very realistic. People are doing these things all the time. This is very important for you to understand this. And also, if you're a smaller business, as I mentioned earlier, you can find partners. You can do a susu. You can also start regional, start local, and then you can expand. It's also important, you can do an online store on your website, as well as Amazon or Etsy or Alibaba. These are different places where you can start as a small company and start. This is very important to understand. And then also, as I mentioned, you can also find individuals in your country that have facilities registered with the FDA, and they can show you, they can save you some steps. They can help you with some steps. They can help you minimize your loss. These people can be your mentors. For example, in Jamaica, there's 189 facilities that are registered with the U.S. FDA. You can find one of these companies and say, can you be my mentor? Can you teach me to export? In St. Lucia, there's 17 facilities in the United States. These are people in your local country. Trinidad and Tobago, there's 83. St. Kitts and Nevis, there's 4. The list goes on and on and on. Dominica is 2. El Salvador, there's 203 facilities that are registered. Haiti, there's 57 facilities that are registered with the U.S. FDA. These people know how to export products to the United States. They can be your mentor. They can work with your company. And I would just reach out to them, figure out who they are, find out who they are, and just contact them. Because most of the time, people are generally good natured. The idea is that they want people, they've already made it, and they want to help people also make it. And these are things that you do. And then if you come with a plan and you come focused and you come have a business plan, have an export plan, you have things in place, like you have it in place, like from a business standpoint, they'll be willing to help you. The idea is that you don't want to come to them with nothing and saying, teach me. They don't really have a lot of time. But if you have something, you have a product you want to export, you have an export plan, you have all these things we talked about. You tell them about the Caribbean Basin Initiative. They'll be willing to help you. I'm very confident of that. And all you need is one person to help you. You don't need everybody. You just need one person to help you. And also, when you're building your company, this is very important. It's important. Business is a team sport. When you're building your company, this is a worksheet I have. You want to list who's the CEO of your company. You want to have your company registered in your local country. You also want to have who's your financing person, because business is about money. So if you're not necessarily good with money, you can find a finance person. Also, who's your legal person on your team. Also, who's your board of advisors. I would recommend some of these individuals in your local country that are registered with the U.S. FDA. I want some of them to be on your board of advisors, people that have already done what you want to do. And you can go to them and say, I'm building a team. I would like for you to be my board of advisors. And they'll do it for free, but you also may want to give them maybe 1% of your company in exchange for their time, in exchange for their knowledge, in exchange for their mentorship, in exchange for their connections, their resources. They can help you make this. So you can give them maybe 1%, 3% of your company, however it is. And those are different contracts that I can also help with drafting. So let's talk about the future of the Caribbean Basin Initiative. As I mentioned earlier, it was renewed to 2030. So this is very important. I mean, it's 2030 is far away, but it's not that far away. So this is, I mean, in the next 9 years, that's enough time for you to be able to ideally start from scratch, start from nothing, and have a huge business. And also they also have these fellows where 6,000 Caribbean leaders are part of this alumni network. So the idea is that you can apply for this fellowship. And sometimes they also have programs where you can come to America, learn about how American manufacturers work and some of the best practices, how America is doing it, and you be part of this fellowship. So you can spread this around. This is a link for it. You can spread this information around. And also lawyers and custom brokers. You know, this is important. These are like lawyers are here and custom brokers are here to help support individuals that have done what you've done. They're also here to support as well. So this is what you want to focus on. You know, so we come to a conclusion. I do want to offer a raffle for individuals. I see Gabriel. He said he's liking this presentation. Thank you, Gabriel. You believe in susus. Susus is very important. You know, this is definitely culturally relevant to your country. There's a lot of questions on here. Yes, I see RSC. You said, will this recording be available after the webinar? Yes, it will be. I will put it on YouTube. I said, since the global pandemic, how has Caribbean U.S. trade, how has that been affected? It's been affected a little bit, but not much. There are many products coming from the Caribbean to the U.S. And your product can be one of those. David Clark, you said it's a very good presentation. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it. Yes, the webinar will be recorded. Yes, Christopher said your labeling must also comply with the FDA requirements. That's very true. You must meet the strict requirements of the FDA. Crystal Pond says I'm from the UK, but still relevant and have a degree in Caribbean studies and social policy. Yeah, it certainly matters, you know. Whether in the UK is an interesting place right now. They did the Brexit, so the UK government is creating trade agreements with, instead of letting the EU come up with trade agreements, the UK has come up with their own trade agreements now. So the UK is facilitating their own trade agreements. Another person asked me, do we need a company registered in the US to facilitate under the Caribbean Basin Initiative? The question is, no, you don't have to have a company registered in the US. You don't. I will focus primarily on having your trademarks protected in the US, but you don't have to. Another person asked me, do we offer assistance in obtaining contracts with distribution companies? Yes, I certainly can do that. David Clark asked me, do I know of any companies in Trinidad and Tobago that's registered with the FDA? I don't know of any off the top of my head, but I think that's some research that you all can do. I just wanted to present it to you all, let you know that there are companies in your country. Also Suriname, they asked the same question in Suriname. Is there companies, where can you find companies in Suriname registered with the US FDA? A lot of you may be just researching your own part. If there's like a manufacturing area in your place, that's a good place to do it. Yes, there are quite a few countries in St. Lucia that are registered with the FDA. Someone posted a link. You know, this is a good place to find them. Someone posted that link, so that's a good area. Send me an email at gj@globallaw.tv. And then we can go from there. So either info@globallaw.tv or gj@globallaw.tv. And so to summarize this webinar, I hope it was a very informative webinar. I cannot stress it enough. The Caribbean Basin Initiative is an incredible piece of legislation. It is a piece of legislation that cannot be understated. And there's an opportunity for you to really take your dreams and make it a reality. You better create jobs for individuals in your country. There are companies from all over the Caribbean that you can take advantage of. So let's answer some questions real quick. I see some individuals with some questions. Let's answer those questions. I can see some of those. Does someone have their hand raised? 1 second. I thought I saw someone with their hand raised. Okay. I will send out a copy to the presentation. All right, we have roughly 5 minutes. David Clark, you can unmute yourself.
Okay.
But please, let's can we make it short? Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hi there. I hope the I hope it's unique. How is the Caribbean export in North America and why is it so unique in the world? The Caribbean trade so unique.
Well, it's so unique because
yes,
one, it provides opportunity. It's a preferential trade agreement. So it's very important to understand this. I don't think I mentioned this earlier. There's a difference between the preferential trade agreement and the free trade agreement. Preferential trade agreement is only for goods coming from the Caribbean to the US. US exporters cannot send products to the Caribbean and get duty-free access. And a free trade agreement, goods from the US can go to, it can work both ways, from the US and to the US. But the preferential trade agreement, the only goods, it only works one way. It only works from the Caribbean to the US. So that's one way it's unique. The other way it's unique is that it offers duty-free access to thousands of products. The thousands of products that can be accessed to the United States. And it is directly for most of the Caribbean countries. So that's one way it's unique. And your product, and by having a duty-free access to the US, it allows for products to potentially be more competitive and potentially cheaper from a price standpoint than many other products from other places in the world. Did I answer your question? Okay, we got Z Hyman. We have a few more minutes. Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. I wanted to, good morning, actually. I wanted to say this is a great presentation. I was invited to the presentation and I wanted to find out more information. How can I get you, or how can I get my email contact to you so I can be put on that list that you're going to send the presentation out to?
Just send me an email at gj@globallaw.tv. You also can register if you put your information here. This is the original registration link right here. So if you put your information there, I'm going to post it in the post it in the chat.
All right, thank you.
All right. There are no other questions. Kevin said he has a question. Go ahead, unmute yourself, Kevin.
Hi, Jeremy, good morning. My question is that, so I'm based in Trinidad and Tobago, but I'm not a manufacturer, I'm a distributor. But we distribute products that are unique to the Trinidad market that we have trademarked in Trinidad. Would that be a product that we could actually export under the Caribbean Basin Initiative?
Yes.
Those products. Yeah.
There are thousands of products. So would have to figure out which products you export, and we have to go through the list to make certain that it does. But if it doesn't qualify under the Caribbean Basin Initiative, I'm sure it'll qualify under the general system of preferences. So you distributing products, I mean, as a distributor, you may be in a better position than most people because you already have the products. You don't necessarily have to do those, and you can come to those trade shows. You can find buyers and things such as that. So you're in a really good position to be able to potentially take it to the next level. If you can send me an email, we can figure out how we can potentially work together, or I can answer more of your questions if you have any other questions.
Just a quick question again, Jeremy. So you don't necessarily have to be a manufacturer.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Okay. All right.
As long as as long as that item coming from, the question is the item, at least 35% of that packet, that item, is it coming from Trinidad and Tobago? And if that answer is yes, then it can
It's eligible for export, right? Okay, yes. Great. Thanks, Jeremy.
Oh, sorry, I put the wrong link in there. Sorry, I put the wrong link. Apologies. Let's put the link in, proper link. Sorry, globalaw.tv/CBI.
Hi, Jeremy.
Yes. Okay. There's no other questions?
Yes, one more question. Are you hearing me?
Okay, I do hear you. We have to make it quick if we can because
Right,
it's
very quick.
11:30
I'm
right now.
calling from St. Lucia.
Okay, how are you?
I'm a small, yes, hello. I'm a small manufacturer, and the plan for starting this year is to establish a proper plant, as it's a cottage industry at present. Is there any guideline you can give in terms of the plant construction that will assist with the FDA qualifying the whole operation? Because the hope is that we'll be able to get that certification.
Yes, they have their guidelines online. And if you send me an email, I could potentially send you some links and some information on that. But there's also companies in St. Lucia that are qualified with the FDA as well. So going to their facilities, maybe reaching out, contacting them. Maybe you can ask someone in the this is one thing you can do. You can maybe see, can you go to the U.S. embassy or U.S. consulate in your country and say, can you introduce me to someone, because I want to export products to the U.S. Can you introduce me to someone who's FDA regulated or certified? And then from there, you'll learn, they'll give you better information on it. But there are people in St. Lucia already doing what you're doing. And I think it's definitely admirable and definitely very realistic and possible for you to export your products from St. Lucia to the US and then be able to create jobs for everyone, for literally hundreds, potentially thousands of people in your country. But we are 11:30 and I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. So thank you all for coming. Please stay in contact with us. info@globallaw.tv, or personally, if you want to send an email to me, gj@globallaw.tv. And you all can I hope you all have a good Friday and have a good weekend. So thank you all for coming to my webinar. I really appreciate it. It was really good. It was really well attended. So I'm really appreciative of that. And I've been to many Caribbean nations and I plan on going to many other Caribbean nations. So thank you all for coming and you all have a good day.